and we're underway finally out of Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey, headed for Norfolk, Virginia. Took me forever to get the mud and the slime off of the anchor and the anchor chain, but that's all right. It held me good through a pretty strong blow. So we're motoring right now until we get to the end of Sandy Hook, because we're going right into the wind. But once we get to the end of Sandy Hook, which is a little spit of land right here between Atlantic Highlands and the Atlantic Ocean, I've got to go an hour up to turn around and go an hour back. So it'll take me 2 hours to do about half a mile of distance. But I'm going right into the wind for this. I'll get up here just a little bit further. I'm waiting to get past some fishermen, and I'm going to set the mainsail. Once we round the spit here at Sandy Hook, I'll set the jib and secure the motor and hopefully not start it again until I'm pulling into Willoughby Spit in Norfolk, Virginia. Anyway, we're underway finally out of Atlantic Highlands, headed for Norfolk, Virginia. It'll take us about, well, if we average 5 knots, 2 days and 2 hours, we'll be there. More later. Well, here we are. We're finally back abeam Atlantic Highlands after going 4 or 5 miles north to get around the tip of Sandy Hook and 4 or 5 miles south back down here. We've been underway 2.5 hours, give or take. We're finally abeam again, but we are under sail. There's no motor running. The only noise is the sound of the wind and the waves and Raymond, since I've got him on the helm. But we're going to shut him down here in just a little bit and give him a break, and I'm going to take the helm. We're making, well, right now 4.3 knots. Here just a little while ago I saw 5.6 knots. So the winds are a little variable, and Raymond doesn't keep an exact course either. So we're going side to side, and we're accelerating and then coming off, and accelerating and coming off. But that's okay. I'm making better than 4 knots in the right direction. As long as I'm making 1 knot in the right direction, I'm a happy guy. So we've got about 2.5 hours behind us now. Another 2 days to go. We'll keep going. It's nice to be sailing in the Atlantic again. The winds have really died down. Well, actually, they're picking up a little again. They're getting ghosty here on us. I was down to 1 knot here just a minute ago. Oh, a little 3 knot there. Oh, now we're down to 2.6. Been underway now for almost 4.5 hours. We've done 20 miles total distance. Oh, and now we're back up to 3.5 knots. I was out on deck just a moment ago. This oxygen tent, this vinyl enclosure, is truly a godsend. I was recalling earlier, 11 years ago, when I was doing the same run on my last boat, Serenity. Same time of year. how cold I was and the measures I had to take to try to stay warm. Oh, look at this. Now the winds are just that quick, picking back up. 4.4, 4.3 knots. Yeah, later on this evening they're supposed to pick up to about 15 knots or so and come a little bit more on our bow. We'll get some more speed there. I planned the trip at an average of 5 knots, and that said 2 days and 2 hours, so basically 50 hours of sailing. So we've done some 6.5 knots. We've done some 1 knots. The winds are a little squirrely. They'll straighten out here in just a second. Well, give them half hour. And then we'll start making good speed again, and probably for the rest of the trip. You can see how close we are to land. We'll run like this pretty much all the way to Norfolk. Tell you a story about a trip that just doesn't want to go easy for me in any way, shape, or form. So I got underway yesterday. Beautiful, beautiful day. Couldn't have asked for anything better, and I think I said that a couple of times, and I may have jinxed myself when I did that. So last night the wind started blowing. I pulled a reef into the second reef into the main, and I reefed the jib as well. And holding as close as I could, the wind had backed enough that I could not stay close to shore, which I had anticipated that because I looked at the forecast and it indicated that that was what was going to happen. But it also indicated that this morning it was going to go back the other direction again, and then I would be able to make myself get close to shore again and, you know, make way towards Norfolk. And I figured no big deal. So last night, I don't know if these guys are on a quota or if it's a short season or whatnot, but every fishing boat on the east coast of the United States was fishing off of the Jersey Shore and all of that last night. And a couple of research boats were out, and tugboats and all of that stuff. I have never, this is the third time I've done this trip, I have never seen this many boats on this leg at one time. No. third time. You know, yeah, that's a big sample, but still. Boats everywhere. And of course, when they were on my course and we had to go one way or the other, and they have fishing gear in, so they have the right of way. Even though I'm sailing, they are restricted in their ability to maneuver, so they have the right of way. And the wind was such that I couldn't go towards the land to get around them. I had to go further offshore. So every time I came up to one of these guys, and a couple of them, you know, I would talk to them, and they would say, "Oh, I'll go this way," you know, and they would let me just stay on my course. But a lot of them won't even answer you on the radio. So I kept having to veer further offshore and veer further offshore and veer further offshore. And this morning, I found myself 55 miles offshore and still with heavily reefed sails and still blowing and not able to make a course towards Norfolk. So I figured, well, it'll calm and the wind will veer like it's supposed to and all of that kind of good stuff. Well, here it is now, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, still hasn't done that. I tried tacking about an hour ago. And I'm just going to head straight for shore, because typically you figure, well, you know, 90 degrees to what you're currently, if you're as close to the wind as you can get, 90 degrees will give you as close as you can get on the other tack. Well, it doesn't work out that way a lot of times, especially when the wind is really blowing. So when I tacked, on my chart plotter, the course was showing heading straight for Atlantic City, which I passed last night at about 8 o'clock at night. I think 8 o'clock at night, something like that. In the dark last night. So I don't want to go back to Atlantic City. So I just tacked again, and now I'm still not able to make my course to Norfolk. I've been headed towards the Outer Banks of North Carolina all day, which you might say, well, just go down there. And I would, but they're far enough away that I would get there just as the next gale would hit, and I wouldn't have a place to anchor. I wouldn't make it into Morehead City before the storm hit. So, and that's on Sunday. So I'm hoping, I'm going to keep trying to squeak this thing. I am hoping that within the next few hours the winds will abate a little bit and will veer like they were supposed to. Tomorrow it's supposed to be relatively calm, and I figure by midnight, if I'm not making any kind of way towards Norfolk, I may just break down and start the engine. I need to make sure that I can make it in there and get anchored up and secured and ready by Sunday afternoon when the storm hits. So, and it's going to be a long run in there, especially if the seas are still up. So, midnight I'll make my decision. There's something about this trip that just does not want me to have an easy go of it. I don't know what it is, but there's something there. Well, it is Saturday, the 16th of December, 2023, and it is 2:15 in the afternoon, and I'm about 1.5 miles from being inside Chesapeake Bay. After that, 2.5, 3 hours will see me anchored in Willoughby Bay, Willoughby Spit, just inside Willoughby Spit, in Norfolk, right between Willoughby Spit and Navy Base. And I'll sit there for 2 or 3 days riding out this next blow. Got here a little later than I thought I was going to, and I've been motoring since 7 o'clock last night. The winds that I encountered were a little stronger than the forecast. Plus, having to deal with some of the fishing vessel traffic out there pushed me a little further offshore than I had planned, to the point where I was 68 miles offshore last night when I decided if I want to get in before this storm, I better start motoring, especially since the winds were pulling. So we motored, and we'll motor all the way in till we anchor. But that's why we've got the motor. Sail when you can, motor when you have to. So anyway, we're almost to Chesapeake Bay, and you'll notice no jacket. Isn't that wonderful? I've even been walking around barefoot all day. I've hated this degree or two higher of temperature. It'll be a little chilly tonight, but it's supposed to be nice for quite a while. Well, here we are in Willoughby Spit, or Willoughby Bay. Willoughby Spit is actually over this away. It's the Willoughby Spit Marina, or maybe it's called the Willoughby Bay Marina, I don't know. This is Willoughby Spit, which is basically just a sandbar. The story I was told when I was in the Navy over here was that, well, 140 years ago or so, 150 years ago or so maybe, there was a big hurricane. And when the hurricane ended, there was this large piece of land that wasn't here before the hurricane. So, being the intelligent species that we are, we named it Willoughby Spit and started building condos on it. And there it is. That's Route 64. Comes straight to the end of Willoughby, goes under the river in a tunnel, and heads on up towards DC. No bridge, it's a tunnel. And we come over this way. It looks like they're doing some construction work, or this is where they're stowing stuff where they do construction work. We come on around the bay, and now we are in Naval Station Norfolk. And you see a control tower over here. See if I can get you to focus. See a control tower over here. That's Naval Air Station Norfolk. We keep coming around. Some big hangars at the Naval Air Station. We keep coming around. And there are the piers. And you can see we've got 2 aircraft carriers in. See if I can move around here without falling over an anchor line. Got 2 carriers in. I can't see their island structures, so I don't know what the numbers are. I can't tell you who they are. But the one on the furthest right, that's on Pier 12, and that's where I spent a lot of time when I was in port, when I was on board USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. The last couple of times I was in this harbor, I saw Eisenhower tied up there. But right now, if you're paying attention to the news, you know she's in the Persian Gulf. She headed out that way to support Jerry Ford with all of this dust up going on over in Israel and Gaza and the Middle East stuff. And a big container ship heading out. So, Willoughby Bay, max depth 11 feet. Great little spot to anchor up to ride out a storm. We haven't really looked at the weather yet. 2 or 3 days. I plan to head out through there and go that way. Try to do the intercoastal down to Morehead City, North Carolina, and then head back out into the Atlantic again. I think we're going to have a lot of nasty winds, so the intercoastal route is definitely the way to go if you want to move further south, that is, and that's what I want to do. So here we are for now. Willoughby Bay, Norfolk, Virginia. Right next to the playground of my youth, Naval Station, Norfolk.